Hey, what's up? How you guys doing? Welcome back. Another Tuesday night live. These things are fun, so I think I'm going to keep doing them for a while. Let's see who we got in the house. We got Miguel. Heyo, runners. What's up, Miguel? And we got William Runner. Greetings. How you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing okay. Got a couple things I wanted to talk about, and then we can just do question and answer stuff, just kind of like we normally do. Wanted to just give a couple extra minutes or seconds for people joining. So I'm going to roll this little intro again. If you have any questions right off the bat, throw them in the chat, and then we will get started. Let's go. All right. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Miguel, William. What's up, Marisol? Missed you last week, but you're back this week. William, good. And Chase the Summit in the house again tonight. Lighting on point. Thank you so much. Oh, man. Awesome. Dan says, hey, how's it going? Just got done running. This is a nice little live podcast for the drive home. Perfect topic. Nice. It's awesome. Oh, perfect. Miguel, stoked I made the stream. Me too. Glad you're here. Thanks for joining. And we got St. Michael Hikes in the house. Looks like a delay between audio and video. Oh no. Let's see, what do we got? Hopefully it's not too bad. I did a couple tests, and 4 milliseconds was what was working earlier. If it's really, really bad, let me know, and I'll try to adjust a little bit longer of a delay. There is a bit of a delay, so the equipment I'm using, the video encoder is a little bit slower than the audio, so I have to kind of put a little bit of a delay on there. But yeah, in the test I did and the stream I did last week, this is all the same settings. So if it's really bad, if something changed, let me know, and I'll try to adjust a little bit. Otherwise, I'm going to keep it right here. Miguel says, hey, Ryan, did you see a new study on neck gaiters? This is something I wanted to talk about. Wondering if you found any running performance masks. Good question, Miguel. I did see there was some news or some study on neck gaiters, and that was it got me thinking, because that's what I use when I go running, like on trails and stuff. And I don't know, I don't know how scientific of a test it was. So I don't really have a whole lot of info there. And I did kind of skim through it, and it just said that it wasn't the material. Since it's like a fleece material, it doesn't stop as much of the droplets. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, a neck gaiter is like one of those, it's kind of like that thing I wear like on my head a lot, but I also, recently I've been wearing it around my neck, and I pull it up when I'm passing people so that we don't spread this COVID to each other. But yeah, there was an article that made its rounds, especially around like the running community and everything, talking about how it's not as effective as some other face masks. And the reason why is because of the material. It's made out of this fleece material that is a lot more porous, and the droplets can go through a lot easier. I didn't see whether or not they tested how many layers you need of this material to make it more equal to like a thicker like cotton mask, because I always fold mine in half, so there's 2 layers. But I did see that, and that was kind of like I was not so cool, because I was like, that's what I use. When we go out, like just like if we have to go like if I have to like run into work for something or go like to a store or something, we have these like cotton masks that are a lot thicker cotton and supposed to do what they're supposed to be the right thing to be wearing. Because I have been having to go back into work. I'm a contracted audio professional, and so I do work at my church. Like I run sound, and we've been starting to have services again. They're all outdoor, but I am going in and out, like sometimes carrying equipment and stuff. And then we have rehearsals that are inside, but everyone is far apart and everyone's wearing masks at that point. But yeah, so that's been going on for like 3 weeks or so. So I have been having to go back into work for that. But yeah, wearing a mask all the time. So yeah, I don't know exactly how scientific the study was, or whether or not they tested if you layer it up, if it at that point becomes more usable or better. But yeah. So there's that. Dan Darling says, my question is, what are those green bags you use as drop bags in your races? Those look cool. Those look perfect, and I need some good drop bags. Yeah, those are actually, so out of all of that's a funny question. Like out of almost everything that I use, like whether it's shoes, bags, gear, any type of like clothing or anything like that, the question I get asked the most is, what are those green drop bags? And there's a video, actually, let me see. I will actually see if I can find the link real quick. See how fast I can do this. But the green drop bags, they are a waterproof. Oh my gosh, can you guys hear that? I'm getting a phone call and it's coming through my computer. I'm sorry about that. Hopefully that person does not call back. So these green drop bags, they are waterproof bags, and they are 20 liters is the size of them, and you can stuff a whole bunch of stuff in there. And then sorry, I'm just gonna find them real quick. And then you roll up the top and you seal them, and it's just like they're just perfect for drop bags. And you can get a whole lot of different sizes too, and different colors. So here, I'm gonna find this. Okay, so here we go. I'm putting it in the chat right now. Dan, this is for you. Check out that link, everybody. If you guys do click on that, there is an affiliate link, so if you click on that, you're helping me out a little bit. Amazon throws a few pennies my way. Yeah, that is the bag that I use. I use the 20 liter. The 20 liter fits a pair of shoes and a full change of clothes, nutrition nicely. I also use it if you don't have that much stuff in there, you can just put whatever you need in there and then roll the top down like as far as you need. Like you can make the bag this big if you want. And then once you clip it together, it's sealed, waterproof, and it's just awesome. The other cool thing is they're really bright colors. So when you're coming up to an aid station and you see just a big, huge pile of bags laying on the ground, like you can find yours real quick. I always get the green ones, but they've got a ton of different colors. So pick your favorite color. But great question. Thanks for asking. And let's see. Terry Joe says, how did you get through the storm the other day? The storm actually didn't really hit us too bad. We kind of live, the area where we live, the geography is just, it's a very interesting geography. They actually put a ton of those like windmills all around, like to the west of us. There's hundreds of these electric windmills out there because we live in a certain place where the weather just does like weird stuff just east of us. And if I knew more about the geography and why, I would tell you. But I just know that a lot of times there are storms that are coming our way and they will like split and they'll go north and south. Or sometimes there's storms that just form in this place, like a couple, 30, 40 miles east of us. But the storm that came through and just had some severe devastation in the Midwest. It kind of split a little bit and went north up to Chicago and then went south to Indy. And I know there was a lot of damage in a lot of places, but we just had some pretty strong wind for maybe an hour, but they were saying that it was maybe gusts of 50 miles an hour, but it wasn't too crazy. So we got lucky, but I know there's a lot of people that are in a bad spot right now and suffering from that. I watched Kofuzi's vlog today, and he just had a lot of footage of going around and a lot of devastation, a lot of buildings torn down. So, thanks for asking, Terry Joe. We made it through just fine. What's up, Jacob Spencer? Local guy, looking to hopefully run with you soon. Hopefully. Glad to see you made it. Matt Roberts says, stoked to join you again. Love your live stream. Mic is a little hot, but I can handle it. Okay. I can turn that down a little bit. No problem. Check. See if that's a little bit better. Would love to hear you chat about how you develop or modify your training plan to train by power. Okay. That's a cool question. Let me actually have... I'll get into that, Matt, here in just a second. I'm actually going to kind of go through like my training, like how it's been. And I'll talk about that here in just a minute. But right off the top, I did want to mention, and let's see if kind of some running news that's been just recently. I don't know if you guys, let's see if we can share this. All right, can you guys see this? This is Courtney Dauwalter. She was attempting to break the FKT on the Colorado Trail, and she was on pace to absolutely crush it. But she had, she came down with, they didn't really know exactly what it was, but around the 300-mile mark, which was like close to Twin Lakes, in Colorado, she had to stop. They didn't know exactly what it was, whether it was some sort of, but it was definitely an emergency. And it turns out that it was acute bronchitis. So that is crazy, and I'm really, really sad. I wish she could have broke that. And here's her Garmin live track. I don't know if you guys can see this. Like, this was so cool. Like, I was following this as she was going the Colorado Trail. She started in Durango, and it ends in Denver. And she made it right to here, and then had to stop. And I wanted to check out if this... I can't remember exactly where, like, the Leadville Trail 100 is on, but I believe it goes through here, maybe right on this trail, because Twin Lakes, like, I feel like I can remember like being right around here, and maybe we were just driving around. Here's Mount Elbert right here. Mount Massive is that mountain that we climbed, me and the crew I was with. there's a video on my channel about that. That was a pretty awesome climb, but I can't remember exactly what trails the Leadville Trail 100 is on. But just wanted to throw that up there and see if you guys had heard about that. Was following along, and she was just absolutely crushing it, and then had to stop. So that was kind of sad. But yeah, let's check this out. So this is my training log, what's been going on the last couple weeks. And last week I hit 50 miles. Let me check this microphone. As you were saying that, like I am hearing it clipping a little bit in my ears. So I'm going to turn down the gain just a tiny bit. So yeah, last week was 50 miles. The week before, about 42, we'll call it 42, and then 52 the week before that. Middle of July, hit right around 27, 28 miles, and then I had a couple 40-mile weeks before that. But this is really, really good progress, and I'm really, really happy about this because as I've been kind of saying in some of my videos and the last couple live streams, my training plan has been kind of non-existent since found out that all my races were canceled. And I'll go over here to Training Peaks. We'll pop this open because this gives you a pretty like a much clearer picture. If you guys haven't ever used Training Peaks, it's something that you should definitely check out. It's my favorite way to track all my workouts and progress, and it's just got some amazing tools to do that. And this is also where all my athletes are that I coach. This is how we communicate all of our workouts and everything. But here, this is the last 365 days. What you're looking at here, this dark blue line is the chronic training load. So that's kind of like this website, Training Peaks, has an algorithm that all of the information you put in, it churns the data. And there's probably some people here watching this that know a lot more about this than I do. But it looks at all your data. It looks at your past history with your heart rate, all your zones and everything like that. It looks at your pace. It looks at your thresholds, and it judges every workout that you put in here based off of those factors, and gives you like a intensity factor score. It gives you a training stress score, and then it's kind of like, it's almost like you can almost picture it like a video game. Like you're almost like building points like as you go, like through your training. And then what it does is it gives you this chronic training load, which is pretty much like where your fitness is. So down here, like middle of December, was right after I had pretty much taken a long break and just really not done much of anything, just kind of like maintaining with runs here and there. I was still running like maybe 3 or 4 times a week, but just not really training, not doing much of anything. Aside from resting. And then middle of December, really started pushing it up and started running like constantly, like training, like just thinking about training, thinking about Cruel Jewel 100, really pushing myself to do as much as I could to build into this 100-miler that I was targeting. And then right here, March, this is pretty much when I realized that the whole world was shutting down. Middle of March, this is when that all started happening. And then right here, this second little peak was the Aravaipa Strong week. So did 100 miles in like 9 days. So pushed up my fitness quite a bit there. And then since then, I've been pretty much just maintaining like just a solid amount of just regular running, like not really doing any intensity work, not really doing anything super long. So not doing anything that's really like pushing the envelope and expanding my training, expanding my fitness, just pretty much maintaining. So that's what it's been looking like here. But what I wanted to say is that I've put myself in a place where I feel like I can, I've been healthy, haven't had any injuries since last year, and I'm just in a really, really good spot to start pushing again, I think. And so I feel like I'm ready. And I think, so like one of the biggest things is like, you have to feel like you're physically ready, but you also have to feel like you're mentally ready to start pushing again. And a lot of times those don't happen at the same time. I know for me, I've probably been physically ready to push my training like all year, but mentally, with everything getting canceled, with starting work from home, like trying to learn this new life, like all the kids are at home, like everybody's at home, like we're not going anywhere. There's been a lot of external stress put on my body, but also my mind mainly. And so my mind wasn't ready to really like start pushing that training again. But I feel like now, I feel like we are getting to a place where I am feeling a lot better about that. And so I'm really excited to start training for no races, nothing really, but just putting myself into, I guess you could say, putting myself in the arena and making sure that I'm just building myself. Because let's look at the last like 2 years, and I'll show you why this is important. So let's see here. Let's go back as far as we can. So this little peak right here, this build over here on the left-hand side, that was Run Rabbit Run 2018. And then after Run Rabbit Run, took some time off, as most normal people do after a big target goal race for the year. And then kind of leveled out like in December and started working again in January. But last year, 2019, had some pretty bad IT band issues really early on in the spring that really hampered my training. And you can see this whenever this pink line is the acute training load. So that's like the training load line that responds very fast, like to every workout pretty much. And that's zigzagging all over the place. What that means is that my runs are not terribly consistent, and they're not like even, which is not a bad thing. It's just, this is just data. But what was happening right here in early spring 2018 or 2019 was that I was not being smart. I was going on some short runs, and then I was trying to push myself to go like really long on the weekends, like 15, 20 miles, when I really shouldn't have. And so that's what this data kind of shows here. But then I was building up towards what was going to be my shot at, what do you call it? Midwest Super Slam. I was going to try and do 500s last year within a matter of like 3.5 or 4 months. So this is my build up here. And right in April was when, actually April, yeah. So it was like in April when I started having that really bad IT band syndrome. That's what this dip was right here. And then middle of June is when I tore the cartilage in my ankle. So then that's when this drops down all through June towards July and August. And then this little bump right here in September was the Hallucination 100, where I really had no fitness, no training, but just went out and slogged through 100 miles just to finish it. But as you can see, and I'll even go back, let's go back. Let's use some custom dates. Let's go to 2017. So this should include Grindstone also. Yeah. So as you can see, your fitness is really, it's an ebb and flow, but where you start from matters. And so that's why, like, I always like tell my athletes and myself, like, in the winter, if you live in a place where you have winter and you want to be like like you're not a professional athlete. Like you don't need to train through the winter and just crush yourself all year, because you're going to burn out really fast. Like you need to have these dips where you go down to virtually like just doing not a whole lot, just resting, so that you'll have the energy to push through a full like 6-month training block. But what I'm going to show you is right here. Like I'm actually like my CTL right now is 62, and when you're race ready, you're close to like 100. I'm actually feeling really good at 62, and my history of that shows that I'm like several weeks out from a race. Every time I've been in the mid 60s, I've been like almost ready for Grindstone, and then almost ready for Run Rabbit Run. And then last year I didn't even hit the 60s at all. But I'm feeling like really good right now. And looking at this graph, I'm just really, really excited about the possibilities of what happens if I actually start training hard and start pushing myself. Like I've got this huge base of miles. I'm somewhere close to hitting 1,500 for the year so far. But just running every day, running, sometimes only 3 miles, but averaging about 5 to 6 miles a day during the week. And then running on the weekends, I've been starting to put in some longer runs. So put in just like I've got a really good base right now. I'm just really, really excited about the possibilities coming up. So just wanted to show you guys that. And hopefully you guys are doing all right with your training. I mean, a lot of people, I think, like I've encouraged all my athletes, just like if you want to rest and you want to just let your body recover, and you want to go into sort of like maybe a early, like sort of like winter recovery season, it's not a bad thing. It's totally fine. But if you're hungry and you want to push and you want to go, like I've got an athlete right now who's training to, she's doing a 50 miler in a couple weeks, self-supported. So, I mean, that's pretty awesome. So I think it just has to do with like where you're physically ready, and then whether you're mentally ready. But yeah. So Patrick Soto says, hey man, how you doing? Watched your vids all the time and you have a great eye. Thanks, man. That's cool to hear. And Jacob Spencer says, work has been brutal, struggling to get as many miles as I'd like. Yeah. I mean, and that's honestly like, that's like that's where a lot of people are right now. And that's not a bad place to be. It's totally fine to be in a place where you're like, just not hitting the miles that you want to be hitting or any of the targets, because like we're in this super, super weird place where there's a whole lot of external stress on our bodies and our minds. And we just need to take what's being given to us. So I don't see anything wrong with that, Jacob. I mean, keep your head up. Like, work's been crazy. Just when you're ready, you'll know it, your body and your mind. But if you're not ready, don't push it, because that's when people burn out. Thorsten says, hey man, you have kids, right? Yes. The answer is yes. How do you balance ultra running with being a responsible dad, asking for a friend? Yeah, that's really, I think that's different for everybody. I think that's kind of like, like every dad or mom is going to be, like have a little bit different goals, or, like a little bit different, type of dad or mom that they want to be. And, I don't judge anybody. I don't think one way or another is more right or more wrong. I think every family is different. For me and my family, we've gone through some seasons and years, I would say, where I wasn't as smart as I am now. I was learning, and that was really difficult for everyone involved. There was some times where I just wasn't super smart about things, and really tried to push probably more than I needed to, spend extra time. There's been seasons where I've just been a little bit more, I guess you could say, irresponsible with the time that I'm running during the day. When I'm choosing to, be responsible and get up early, and run in the mornings before work. Those have been a lot better seasons of life. Currently what's working really well is, running, during the lunch hour during the week. And, it's just, that's worked out pretty well for us. Our kids have been home all summer. My wife's job is a little bit more, so we're both working at home, but she has to be, she's a therapist. And so she's like dealing with clients like all day long. And so she needs to have a private area where no one bugs her. My job is a little bit more flexible. Like I have a lot of meetings and Zoom calls and all that, but it's a lot more flexible. And, so pretty much I'm like watching the kids like during the day, like during the work day. And that's been fine. And then I get like a little break, to go run during lunch. But what's really helped with that is that's opened up like mornings and evenings, which for our family has worked out a lot better. The evenings, when you have little kids, like I've got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, evenings can get really stressful, with, dinner and all that, getting ready for bed and all that. So, having my run done earlier in the day, like during the lunch hour, when the kids are pretty, they don't, they've got food, so they're not like, they don't need a whole lot of, parental attention, cause they've got food in front of them. So they're fine for 45, 30 minutes, yeah. And then on the weekends, I try to get my long runs done earlier on a Saturday morning. And then, try to spend time, with the family, like on like Saturday afternoons and Sundays. Just try to do the best I can. Honestly, one of the, harder parts is, the travel that's involved with, being a ultra runner or athlete, or whether you like whatever type of athlete you are, you're going to travel to races. And the family doesn't always come. And so that can be harder too, spending time away from family. I know last year there was, it was some pretty difficult times with filming the Triple Crown series, because for each of those races, I was gone for like 5 days for each of those races. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like, I think everyone has I think it's necessary for everyone to do what's best for them and their family. And I don't think there's any rules that are the same for everybody. Don't judge anyone. But it is difficult. It is difficult trying to find that balance and find what's right for you and your kids and your family. So, yeah, thanks for asking that question. You're learning all the time. You're learning how to do it the best way you can. So Alex has a question. Love the info Training Peaks provides, but do you know is there any way to compare the same runs performed on different occasions? That is a good question. You kind of can, but not. There's not like a perfect way to do it. Like in the past, I've shown like on my channel where I'll compare runs. DC Rainmaker has a software where you can load in if you run with two separate watches, you can load in and see how those watches compare. And I have gone in and edited fit files to see two separate runs that were the exact same run, started in the same place, ended in the same place, same distance, tried to hit the same pacing sort of thing. I compared my heart rate on two separate runs. They were same distance, same course, but separated by a couple days, and then 10 degrees difference in temperature, Fahrenheit. But there's not a great way to do that on Training Peaks. Training Peaks is more for, I wish it could do that. It's incredible for planning a season. I can just show you a couple other things here, what it does. This is called the dashboard. And you've got all sorts of things. So this is really cool right here. So like, we'll just pop open this chart. This is time and power zones for all workout types. And this is over the course of the last 90 days, it looks like, or so. And it just shows you the time spent in each power zone. Strava's starting to do some things like this, but Training Peaks has done it for years and years, and I just really trust them. Their data is really solid. But you can see, like, on my runs, like, I'm spending 33% of my time in power zone 1, 45% of my time in power zone 2, and then you can do the same thing for heart rate. You can pop that open. Now, this is a pretty typical graph for someone who is... I guess, I don't know. I'm not going to say that. This is pretty typical for someone who is coached or knows a little bit about what they're doing, like a lot of time in zone 1 and zone 2, and then not as much time in zone 3, 4, and 5. So, less than 20% of my time is spent in zone 3, 9% of my time in zone 4. So even this is maybe I would say a little bit heavy, but over the course of the last 90 days, I haven't been really thinking about too much about this. I've pretty much been going out and running. Also, these are slightly high, like, so 30% of my time is spent above zone 3 or in zone 3 or above. And a lot of that has to do with the heat as well that we've had over the last couple months. And then it's got just a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, this is kind of cool. I mean, Strava sort of does stuff like this too, but you can see, like, your duration and distance over the past couple of weeks and then the past couple of months. And then you can do, like, it shows you your some of your quicker times that you've had over the last couple of months. So that's pretty cool. Another kind of interesting thing that you can look at is your comparison between your training stress score and your intensity factor. So when your training stress score is low and your intensity factor is high, it can mean one thing: you're probably running shorter distances because your intensity is higher, but you're not building up enough time at that intensity to build your training stress score too high. But then the last couple of weeks, you see there's been a shift to where my training stress score has been higher than my intensity factor. And in the very, very general, basic terms, kind of what that means is that I've changed my mindset going into training over the last 3 weeks, and I've been focusing more on adding in a couple longer runs and running a bit slower, less intense on those runs. So you see there's just a shift there. And then, Training Peaks can do a ton of stuff. It plans out your season. You can look at your data. You can get super, super involved. The software that is like one step farther than Training Peaks is called WKO. And I have that too. I don't have it pulled up on my computer, and I don't want to spend the time loading it up and trying to get into it and finding some data to look at. But in WKO, you can build your own. Charts and graphs, and you might actually be able to, in that software, compare specific runs, kind of like what you were asking, possibly, Alex. But yeah, I really wish there was a way, or maybe I just don't know about a way that you can kind of like layer runs in on top of each other and check out that data. What's up, Richard? Hello. How you doing? And then Miguel, follow-up question. How often is a healthy cycle of tempo runs and elevation-focused workouts in the course of a month? I think so. It depends on what you are, what your end goal is. But generally, say you run 5 times a week, maybe throwing in 1 tempo run, and so there's also a difference between tempo runs and interval runs. You've got tempo runs, which are kind of like your longer sustained, more like race pace, zone 3 runs. And they'll range for kind of like the middle distance. Like it's not the farthest you run, but it's also not the shortest you run. It's just kind of in the middle, and it's in that zone where you're just like, you're uncomfortable the whole time. There's no relief. And that's the point of it, because you're training for a race, but you don't want to do that so often. I say once a week is probably the max you really want to go, unless you're a professional athlete or you've got a coach. Like, listen to your coach. But just general kind of like information that I'd be okay with throwing out on YouTube is, shoot for like maybe once a week a tempo run, kind of like middle distance, race pace, and then also throw in a workout where you're doing on a different day, maybe 2 days later or 2 days before, something like that, something like an interval run where you're picking intervals based off of what you want to work on. And so it could be anything as short as like 400 meters. It could be based off time, like 3 minutes. It could be something like a mile or 10 minutes at a time. But you want, like, intervals are one of the best ways that you can get faster, because what you're doing is you're pushing the envelope farther. You're pushing more than you can for a sustained amount of time, and then pulling back and recovering, and then pushing a lot harder, and then pulling back and recovering. And what that'll do is it'll really just expand everything in your training and your running. It'll help you with your agility. It'll help you with your balance. Like, it'll just help your brain get used to running faster. To your body will get used to moving across pavement or trail much faster. And then it trains everything, cardio, cardiovascular, everything. And interval training would be like maybe once a week or so, depending on how hard you're going. Like, there was a couple blocks I did, in July, or no, not July, January. Let me see if I want to pull that up on. I'm not gonna pull that up on the screen, but I was doing 3. There was a block of 4 weeks in January where I did 3 interval sessions a week. And then another block in like February, March, where I did 3 interval sessions a week. And I noticed I had the biggest improvement to my running during those sessions, but those are really hard to sustain. And I wouldn't throw it out there as just like general advice to go ahead and do something like that. I think if you're monitoring, like if you have a coach and your coach is monitoring your progress, and you're really, really paying attention to your body and how you feel, you could do something like that. But I was putting myself through some like pretty intense training at the beginning of the year, trying to get ready for Cruel Jewel in May. But those interval sessions, what they looked like is I was doing at the beginning of the year, I was focusing on VO2 max. So that's like as hard as you can possibly run for 3 minutes. You want your VO2 max, like your body doesn't really kick into that gear until you've hit kind of like 2 minutes of running as fast as you possibly can. And then, but it's not sprint. It's just as fast as you can sustain for 3 minutes. So after 2 minutes of that, the last minute is where you really get the benefits of that VO2 max work. And so you do that for 3 minutes, and then you recover for 1.5 minutes, and then you do that for 3 more minutes, recover for 1.5 minutes, and you do maybe like 5 sets of that. And then like that's your workout. So your workout might be a 10 or 15 minute warm up, and then 5 of those intervals, and then like a 5-10 minute cool down. So your workout might be like 35-40 minutes, but you get some like absolute like incredible adaptation from a workout like that. You only want to do something like that like once a week starting out. Then once you kind of like maybe get used to it, you could do something like that like twice a week. And then you want to work on like your VO2 max. Like if you're training for an ultramarathon, you want to work on that during a different time of the year than if you're training for like a 10K or even a marathon. Like you would not do that at the same time in your season because, and I don't know if this is the rabbit hole you guys wanted to go down tonight, but you want to your training needs to get more and more specific to your race as you get closer to your race. So say you are training for a 10K and you want to run you want to PR your 10K. Well, the beginning of the season, the beginning of your whatever training cycle you do, whether it's 8 weeks or 16, 20 weeks, something like that, your training is going to look least like your target race or target goal. And as you get closer to it, your training is going to get more and more like it. But you want to hit all the areas. So if you're training for like a really fast 10K, 20 weeks out, you might be running a high volume. Just depends on, all coaches are different, but this is kind of just general training advice. Say you're training to run a fastest 100 miler you've ever run, 3 or 4 months out, you still want to train that VO2 max system because you're going to need it on those climbs during that race. You're going to need it bombing the downhills. You're going to need that training at some point in your race. And so you want to do that, but you don't want to do it close to your race. So you want to do it far out. A couple months before is good. So that's why I was doing VO2 max work like in January. And then I transitioned into more of like a threshold, like kind of like what you were talking about, like tempo runs. And I would do more of like a sustained, like 6 minute interval, maybe an 8 minute interval, like as fast as I could go for 6 or 8 minutes, and then recover for 3 or 4. So those would be my intervals, maybe the middle of the season. And then as I got closer to the race, my training would look, more like the race. And so my long runs were getting really long, and the interval sessions that I would have been doing had I been doing this right before Cruel Jewel, my interval sessions would have been like maybe like 10 minutes or 15 minutes at like just on the edge of zone 2, zone 3, or maybe I would have been doing fast miles, something like that. But my interval sessions I wouldn't have been doing anything like VO2 max work or anything like that. But that's because I'm training for a 100 miler. Again, the whole training season could be flipped if you're training for a fast 5K, fast 10K, fast marathon. You might do a lot of that VO2 max work like towards the end. Like if you're training for a 5K, you're probably going to be doing some VO2 max work throughout the whole season, but a lot of it's going to be piled up towards the end. So, yeah. And then as far as, the second half of your question was elevation focused workouts during the course of a month. And there's 2 things that you might be asking there. I don't know if you're asking about training for like altitude or if you're training for vertical gain. Same thing as I was saying earlier. If you're training for vertical gain, you have a race where you're going to have 20,000 feet of gain over 100 miles, or maybe you're doing a 50 miler with 10,000 feet of gain or something. You want your training to be much more specifically like the race the closer you get to the race. So a lot of people, like, you can really do whatever you can, like, vertical training, you can do that throughout the whole year. That's like totally fine. But it's the same sort of thing. Like, if you're 20 weeks out from your race, you probably don't need to be spending a ton of time just doing like hill repeats or going out and trying to get like 6,000 feet of vert on a Saturday over the course of like 5 miles. Like, you don't need to put your treadmill at 40% and just walk for hours when you're months away from your race. But the closer you get to it, that's when you do want to start working a lot more on that vertical, like all those muscles that are going to be just like hiking uphill and then running downhill too. That's a really, really important thing that a lot of people kind of miss. The downhill training, just don't. And sometimes it's because you just can't. Like, if you live in Florida that's pancake flat and you're training to go run Rabbit Run out in Colorado, you're probably going to do everything on the treadmill. And a lot of treadmills don't have negative 40%. So you're just going to, like, you take what you can get. And so you're going to train really well for the climbs on a treadmill. And then you're just going to accept the horrible pain your quads are going to have going downhill. So there you go. I hope that answered your question. Alex, looking to compare how heart rate changes with weather, nutrition, etc. Yeah. Like I said, Alex, I think you probably made that comment before I mentioned this in the video, but I put up a video a couple of weeks ago or so where I compared just what 10 degrees Fahrenheit did to my heart rate, and it was very eye-opening. Like, the 10 degrees difference for the last half of the run, I think my heartbeat was like almost like 15 beats per minute faster, which put me on a cooler day, I was pretty much solid zone 2. On a warmer day, I was like pushing almost into zone 4. And so it's just like the same run, same pace, same power, same everything. But the heat, 10 degrees Fahrenheit, took me from zone 2 to almost zone 4. It's just, the heat is crazy. Like, heat is something that you really, really have to train a whole lot for. Just like the same thing with like altitude. If you live at a place that's almost sea level and you're going to try and go do a race out in Colorado or, some other place that's 10,000 feet or something like that, like, you gotta do what you can. When I was training for Run Rabbit Run and doing pacing 50 miles at Leadville, I built my own altitude kit, like a hypoxic kit. It was absolutely wild. I got the plans off the internet and ordered all the parts, and it was like this like crazy stuff, like, to get this like medical tubing. Like, I only needed like 3 feet of it or something, but I had to buy a roll of like 100 feet of it just to get it at like a price I was willing to pay for like this medical like breathing tube. And then like, just, it was crazy. Like, maybe I'll do that again someday and make a video about it. But that is something that I really had a whole lot of success with, though. So if you want information on that, let me know and I'll throw it out there. Thorsten says, thanks, Ryan. I know it was a bit personal question, but it was really helpful to hear the perspective of a fellow dad. Awesome. I'm glad that helped. I'm fine with talking about that kind of stuff. Like, I don't mind it. So ask away. Richard asks, do you have problems putting training runs Suunto to Strava? Answer is sometimes. Suunto, out of all the watches I have, Suunto is the slowest of the bunch to get over to Strava. But it always ended up getting there eventually. Like my daily, just like running like during lunch watch is my Apple Watch paired with the Stride Pod, and I use the Stride app on my watch. And so like half the time when I'm hitting stop, before I even like unlock the door, like it's already connected to the internet and sent it there, and it's already uploaded. But like Koros is really fast. Polar sometimes you have to initiate the transfer. And then Sunto was always just like kind of all over the place. Sometimes it was super fast. Sometimes it was really slow. The one thing that I can recommend though is an app. Let's see here, just to get the right name of it, called Run Gap. And that app, you can like sign in with all of your services, whether like if you're Sunto or whatever, and it will do the transfer for you. It's like 99 cents a year or something like that, but it does help if you ever are having issues with that. Oh, awesome. Andrew Ryder, super chat. Thank you so much. Enjoy the show, but have to run figuratively at this time. Looking forward to the next one. Oh, shoot. I hope you're still here. Thank you so much, Andrew. That's awesome. Hope you have a great run. And Alex says, I'm one of those, I'd love the in-depth conversation about intensity factor and efficiency factor. Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Maybe I'll put together a video on that. Let's see here. Miguel has another question. I would be interested to see if certain types of music affect heart rate in comparison to listening to a podcast or audiobook. That's a good question. I would say that I think they indirectly affect your heart rate. Like if you're listening to something like some like speed metal, thrash, or something like that. Sometimes I will listen to like I'll get into like some Seven Dust or something, Project 86 or some Living Sacrifice, something like that. If I really need to push hard, and that helps. Like music is a performance enhancement, 100%. Like you and I can we can debate this forever, but I will always believe that music is a performance enhancement, and it's fine. Like there's a lot of things like that. Certain types of clothes or shoes or certain, hydration mixes are as well. But you put some music on in your earbuds and you put on like some heavy metal or some whatever gets you going. You can do a lot more than you thought you could 5 seconds before you pressed play on that music. And then like in the same comparison, like if you're listening to like a really boring audiobook or a podcast that's just not interesting, it can actually really hurt. I've had situations where because I listen to Audible, and I listen to a lot of different books. Sometimes I repeat books if I'm waiting for like the next book that I've paid for to like show up. If you have Audible, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes those last couple of days of the month, you have to just like listen to the book again. But sometimes I'll get to like these parts where it's just like, oh my gosh. And like, I'll just totally zone out, and I'm not listening to the book, and I'm not thinking about my run, and I'm just bored. And so what I'm saying is I think it can indirectly affect your heart rate because what you're listening to can get you excited or just bore you. So I really believe that. All right, Red Springs Runner says, hey, Ryan, no question. I just wanted to say I really like the live videos. Hope you and your family are doing really well. Thank you. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, and also I just wanted to say, like, thank you so much to everyone that reached out on the last video I posted a couple days ago. Kind of was, I mentioned there that my uncle passed away from COVID, and it was just like still it's a really, really tough time for our family. But the incredible amount of positivity that came through in those comments, was just amazing, and something that I really did not expect. I expected some people to reach out, but I also kind of expected some people to be like, oh man, this is like a downer video. But it was quite the opposite. I just received so much encouragement from you guys on that last video. And I almost didn't post it because I just felt like it was maybe too personal. But I scheduled it for the following morning to go live. And I thought, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I regret doing that, I'll cancel it. But I slept and woke up in the morning and had a ton of comments, and it was really, really encouraging. You guys are awesome. So thank you so much. Let's see here. There's a lot of questions. Miguel says, great food for thought. Thanks for the breakdown. Super helpful. I'm training in Milwaukee for a potential 50K next year. That's pretty cool. I'm in a city which is flat, minimal trails, but running an average of 5 to 7 miles 5 times a week for potential 50K next year. Yeah, that's great. 5 to 7 miles 5 times a week. That's awesome. So you're getting at least 25, 30, maybe 35 miles. That's great, man. 50Ks are, if you've never run one, they're quite a surprise at how much farther those extra few miles feel past a marathon. But yeah, what you're doing is great, man. Also very intrigued by Training Peaks, so thanks for the information tonight. Yeah, I think Training Peaks, it's free to sign up, and then I would say you get maybe 50% of the features for free. So the paid version is definitely better. But yeah. And then if you ever do get a coach, your coach is going to use Training Peaks. There are not many coaches out there that don't at this point. It's been around for so long, and there's still some coaches that send out. I still know people that send out Excel files with their training plans, and that's fine. If that works for them and their athletes, that's great. I use Training Peaks because it's incredible, and it helps me just really track a season really well. So awesome. Yes. So CH Sus Government says it's interesting with temperature. I've noticed the humidity can really have a greater impact on my heart rate, especially when it's warm, 80-ish degrees. And I totally agree with that as well. Humidity is somebody that I heard compared humidity with actual altitude, being and something about the percentage of humidity compared to 10,000 feet above sea level or something like that. I saw an interesting article. I don't know where it was from. I can't remember exactly what it said, but there is humidity is really, it really, really affects you. And I've been in some races. I did a race 2 years ago, maybe, middle of July, down in southern Indiana. And it was just absolutely brutal humidity, and there was a point where my body physically couldn't run anymore because we were down in a valley or down in a ravine, and it was just we were baking so hot down in there, and the humidity was just it was really, really bad. So I totally get what you're saying about that, and maybe there's some research out there about that. Yeah. And then also I'm training in the Northern Kettle Moraine. I was supposed to do Ice Age Trail 50, considering doing the Mohican 50 in October. Any thoughts comparing the Ice Age Trail and Mohican trails? Oh, yes. So last year, I did 100K up at the Kettle during the 100 miler. I did 100K. And then 2 weeks later, I did 83 miles on the Mohican trails at the Mohican 100. And if you haven't seen those videos, and like I won't rehash the whole story about why I didn't finish either of those races, but they were tough for different reasons. Courses were both great. Kettle is definitely it's an easier course. Mohican is there's more vertical gain, and the trails are a little bit more rugged, and we're talking like Midwest rugged. Like, so there's tons of roots and rocks and everything, but it's not it's not like the Northeast where the trail is literally just rocks. I mean, the Mohican was like incredible though. I want to go back really, really bad. To conquer that race and kick its butt because I'm mad about how mine ended. But B, because the course is great. Like, I love the course. I ran pretty much all the miles during that race with my friend Matt, and just kept commenting to him on how much I liked those trails. Like, they were exactly what I was hoping for. Like, really nice sustained climbs of a couple hundred feet, nice long descents. Like, there's one descent that's maybe 1.5 miles or 2 miles long that it's just a gradual descent the whole time, and you can just bomb it. When you're in a 100-mile race, like, bombing a descent looks a lot different than any other time. But yeah, it's a great course. Good people that run it. There were some confusing aspects to, like, drop bags and stuff like that. But the course is a good course. It's a loop. So you do 4 loops. And there's some variation there. The loops change. They're not identical. So it's a fun one. Kettle Moraine 100, that course up there, it's a lot of the first half is a lot of like prairie running, and then it was also incredibly muddy the year that I ran it last year, because there was quite a bit of rain that week, and those trails, it's mostly, I mean, the first half is mostly flat. There's not a whole lot of any sort of climbing in the first half. And so those trails just like when water just sits and collects on them, and they just turned into just a crazy mud fest because there was so many other races on it too. Like there was a 100 miler, 100K, 50 miles, 50K. There was all these shorter races. Like there was like a midnight fun run, like all sorts of stuff. And they all started kind of in different spots. Whoa, do you guys see something's just flashing there? Interesting. But yeah, I don't know if that's my camera going out or what, but yeah, Kettle and Mohican are very, very different. I would recommend Mohican. It's a bit harder, a bit more rugged, whole lot of fun. Kettle is like you can go there and like you can push the pace quite a bit at Kettle. You can also get yourself in trouble, which is what happened to me. Just pushed a little bit too hard during the first 50 miles. Alex, see you later. Gotta run. Great live as usual. Thanks for answering my questions. Appreciate your insight. Until next week. Thanks, Alex. See ya next week. It's awesome. Marisol says, Ryan, will you ever consider running a race on the West Coast? Yes, I would love to. West Coast, I would love to go out there. I actually was out Western States last year doing some filming, and those trails out there looked amazing. Also spent a week out in John Muir Wilderness 2 years ago. That was absolutely incredible. So yeah, I absolutely love California and all those trails out there. also spent some time last year in the Pacific Northwest, which was awesome. But yeah, I would love to go out in California and run some races out there. John, what's up, man? You made it. Kettle's easier for sure. Love Mohican except when it rains cats and dogs. Yes, that is true. So we had a very long thunderstorm at Mohican. It was hours long in the middle of the night, and it just the trails were rivers. I really wish that I had, like the GoPro doesn't really pick up very much at night, which is, it's an action camera, really small sensor. But there was just like hours where we were just walking through ankle deep water, sometimes deeper than that, because it was just the trail. There was so much rain that the trails were just flooding. There was nowhere for it to go. Yeah, that was fun. See you later, Miguel. Have a great night. Thanks. Marcel says, or a race like Javelina in Arizona. That would be awesome. I've been wanting to run one of those races, one of those Air Vipa races for a long time. Obviously just, love what Jamil and Run Steep and Air Vipa do on online for all of us runners and ultra runners. And so I'd love to go support one of their races. But then also they just look really cool too. So Javelina would be fun. Thanks. CHSS government, appreciate your videos and live chats. Continue to pray for you and family. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then John, yes, 4 to 5 inches of rain dumped on that course. It was wild. Yeah. So let's see. Thank you guys all for joining. How long have we been going for? Oh, over an hour already. Okay. So I'll start wrapping it up. I had a whole list of stuff to talk about, but only got through a few things. Yeah. Nothing crazy. We'll save it for later. So yeah, thank you guys for joining. It looks like we had a pretty solid group the whole time. That's awesome. Lots of questions, lots of fun. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, if you are out there and training for a race, good luck. Hopefully, there's one really close in Ohio, Burning River, that's still happening apparently in like a week and a half. I just read through some of the guidelines that they're doing, and maybe we'll go over that last week to see how that'd be a good idea. Next week we'll go over and see how we'll look at what Burning River is doing to actually make the race possible. There's a lot of very interesting rules that they've got, which I think are, they look like they're pretty good, and they look like they're going to make the race actually possible to happen. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you guys for joining. I will see you again soon. Take care. Stay safe. And have a good night. Bye.